Hi, my name's Josh Odgers from Nutanix. I'm a VCDX and NPP, and I'm here today to talk about SCSI protocol emulation for virtual machines on NFS Datastores. So here's our agenda. We're going to start with storage abstraction via SCSI and how that works. Next we'll move on to the emulation process. We'll cover SCSI abort and reset commands, forced unit access and write-through, as well as write ordering and torn I/O protection. So let's talk about storage abstraction. So what we can see in this diagram is you can see the ESX layer with the virtual machine mapping to a VMDK on a data store, which it could either be a VMFS volume backed by block-based storage, either DAS, iSCSI or Fibre Channel, and then a data store backed by NFS. So what we're showing here is the virtual machine just sees a VMDK file on a data store. So that's an example of abstraction. So the storage protocol is not presented to the virtual machine whatsoever. So SCSI protocol emulation is a process that's patented by VMware. So we can see on the slide here the patent number. And the idea of this patent is to allow storage from a VMDK to be abstracted even when storing on an NFS data store. So let's talk about how this works. So with NFS, there's no equivalent command to the SCSI abort or reset command. Therefore, it can't simply just be translated to NFS. So what we have to do is we have to emulate the SCSI protocol. Now, what we can see on the right of the slide is actually showing how this process works. So an I/O is received by the hypervisor. It's determined what type of command that is. And then down the bottom we can see if the SCSI command is a read or a write, it's translated to the NFS equivalent. If it's not an NFS write, or if it's not a SCSI read or write, it's translated into or it's a SCSI abort, so it can't be translated directly. So this process is done, as we can see here, by the virtual SCSI request list. So the SCSI command is put into a request list. If it's an abort or a reset, the emulation process simply drops that from the request list, therefore emulating a SCSI reset. So forced unit access and write-through. So this is another requirement of a lot of applications such as MS SQL or Exchange. So the key here is to ensure that the I/O is actually written to stable media, and in the event of a power outage, it's not potentially lost through a battery-backed write cache or anything similar. So it's simply about getting that I/O straight to disk without any delay. So this is relevant to any storage. It's not specifically related to NFS or iSCSI or Fibre Channel. So this is a requirement regardless of the protocol you choose. So write caching mechanisms that are backed by battery-backed cache or similar are not necessarily relevant or not necessarily compliant in this case, and it's regardless of protocol. So a CRC check is what's required to ensure data integrity regardless of protocol. VMware also supports forced unit access, not surprisingly, through the encapsulation process in a virtual machine disk or VMDK. Write ordering. So write ordering is a very simple process where the application issues a write and the storage system has to honour the order it's written in to ensure that data remains consistent. So very simply, as it's sent out, the block needs to be written A, B, C. It can't be out of order, say B, C, A. It has to be A, B, C. There's a knowledge base article which was just updated today about this process that shows support for all hypervisor versions up to the current vSphere 5.5. And we can see it's knowledge base article 101.2143. Torn I/O protection is basically where an I/O, a misaligned I/O, can be written across two blocks or two sectors, and therefore what can happen is if a power outage occurs, the I/O can be partially written and therefore torn if the power outage happens. So we need to ensure that the storage actually correctly reports the sector sizing so that we can ensure that torn I/O protection does not happen. So the storage has to be compliant all the way through the stack, from the storage layer through the hypervisor emulation process to the virtual machine, and presenting that correctly to the guest OS. Misaligned partitions can increase the chances of this problem. However, this has been recently resolved in Windows 2008 onwards, so misaligned partitions won't contribute to this problem anymore with modern operating systems. So in summary, the SCSI abort or the SCSI command abort and reset have no equivalent in NFS. So that's why the emulation process has to process those through the virtual SCSI request list. So this is what we're talking about. So the guest operating system and applications in a virtual machine have no knowledge of the underlying storage protocol, whether it be block-based or file-based, because it's encapsulated in a VMDK. And finally, the abort and reset are emulated through the hypervisor through the virtual SCSI emulation list. So run virtual machines with confidence on ESX and NFS Datastores. So in summary, you can go to my blog, CloudXC, which is vcdx90.com, for a multi-part blog series covering these topics in a lot more detail. Thank you very much.